You all welcome our seminar series of course module Operational Management. Today I am conducting the first seminar of this course unit, that is Operational Management. In this seminar, I will discuss with you one of a previous exam paper. That paper year is 2017. I think this discussion highly important for you when you prepare in your this time exam also. First, when I move to the first session of this first section of this paper, this section is included four subparts or subsections, and each section has 5 marks, and therefore altogether 20 marks for this section. So one thing you have to understand in now, before you before you writing answer for the particular section, remember first you have to concern about the marks allocated, right? Marks allocated for that section, and then you can get some idea about, right, how you can organize the answer for that section, and how many times you have to allocate, right? You have to allocate for that particular section. So in here you can see all the sub-sections have each has 5 marks. So that means just you have to, it's enough to write important, the relevant answers, just like half page likewise. Okay, so anyway, I will discuss the answers for you. So remember, when I discussing the answers for this section, I also give more information to the relevant topic. So I think it is more important for you when you again when you face you will face in the another section from same topic. Okay, so in this paper already included 8 sections. Among these 8 sections, you have to try. You need to answer the only 5 sections. Right? Similar method this time also followed. So in this section, first section already asked from the when section is covered by the first course, first topic of your course unit, the admin, the introduction part. Right? So in this first, the first section is, the first section's part 1 is define the operations management and explain the role of operations management in an organization. For when you answer in this section, it's asked the define, right? Define the operations management. So it is better if you if you can give the correct definition, right? Correct definition, or one definition from any authors, right? Any authors. So in here I have given 2 sample definitions, right? So one is you can write, say you can write OM is concerned with the efficient conversion of an organization's resource into the goods and services that it has been set up to provide. This is Bennett 1996. Bennett's definition is this one. So another definition also I have given here, that is Waters 1991. According to him, OM is concerned with all activities involved in making a product or providing a service. It is responsible for the transformation of various kind of inputs to useful output. So likewise, you can give one definition and also you can explain, right? You can give small, brief, right, explanation about this definition. Okay, so this is the common meaning of operational management. A business function responsible for planning, coordinating and controlling the resources need to produce product and services for a company or organization. So anyway, right? So in here, I hope to discuss, or I hope to explain, right? So more information for this question as the answer, right? That means the introduction of operational management. So as you know, every business is managed through three major functions, right? Three major functions. What are those major functions? Finance, marketing, and operations management, right? Yes. Normally we know so except these three main functions, right? Organization maybe has, such as accounting, purchasing, human resource, branch or department. But remember, major functions are marketing, operations, and finance. So anyway, finance, we know the finance is the function responsible for managing cash flow, current assets, and capital investment. And also the marketing department also responsible for sales, generating customer demand and understanding customer wants and needs. And most of us have some idea of what finance and marketing are about, and now we have to know what does operation management do, right? So the operation management is the business function that plan, organize, coordinates, and control the resources need to produce a company's goods and services. So operations management is a management. It is also the basic management function. It involves managing people, equipment, technology, information, and many other resources. So operation management is the central core function of every organization. This is true whether the company or organization is large or small, or provides this is also true whether the company provides a physical good or service. Also, this is true whether the company is for profit or non-profit. right? That means every organization need this function of operational management function. So every company has an operations management function. Actually, all the other organizational functions are there primarily to support the operations function. So without operations, there would be no good or service to sell. So consider a retail such as apparel garment. Okay, so the marketing function provide promotion for the merchandise, and finance function provide the needed capital. It is the operations functions, however, that plan and coordinate all the resources needed to design, produce, and deliver the merchandise to the various retail locations. So then we know you can understand without operations there would be no goods or services to sell to customer. So I think now you got good understanding regarding the operational management. So then next I move to the second. Now I am going to move to the second part of the same section. The section is, what was the major contribution of operations management by F.W. Taylor? What was the major contribution of Taylor, right? Taylor's contribution. And Taylor contribution, right? So I think this part also we have discussed in our lecture series, right? In the evaluation or the historical evaluation of the under the historical evaluation of the operational management, right? So when you answering this type of question, just you have to again, I will again remind you, you have to consider, or you have to concern the allocated marks, right? Just it already allocated 5 marks. That means you have to just focus in the main things, right? You have to write just a good answer when including the important points, right? So as the sample answer, right, I can explain to you scientific management, right? Scientific management was an approach to management promoted by Frederick W. Taylor, right? Frederick W. Taylor at the turn of the 20th century. So normally we know Taylor was, anyway, basically for answering this question, you have to give Taylor's major contribution, right? So then through scientific management, he sought to increase worker productivity and organizational output. And his concept had two key features. First one is he assumed that workers are motivated only by money and are limited only by their physical ability. And Taylor believed that worker productivity is governed by scientific laws and that it is up to management to discover these laws through measurement, analysis, and observation. And workers are to be paid in direct proportion to how much they produce. That is his major contribution regarding the his major contribution. So the second features of his approach was the separation of planning and doing function in a company, which meant the separation of management and labor. management is responsible for designing productive system and determining acceptable worker output. Workers have no input into this process. They are permitted only to work. That is his second uh, argument, right? And anyway, many people did not like the scientific management approach, especially workers who thought that management used this method to unfairly increase output without paying them accordingly. But still, many companies adopted the scientific management approach. Today, many view scientific management as a major influence in the field of operations management, right? As an example, we can say price rate incentive, right? In which workers are paid in direct proportion to their output came out of this movement. So therefore, finally, we can say Taylor introduced the widely used method of work measurement, stopwatch time studies. And in stopwatch time studies, observations are made and recorded of a worker performing tasks over many cycles. And this information is then used to set a time standard for performing the practical tasks. And also this method, after the Taylor's introduction, all these methods also more developed by other scientists. And next, I would like to move the third part of the section number 1. It asks what are the main differences between product and services. Differences between product and services, right? You can see in this slide, I have given the main major or the basic differences between two, that means between manufacture, service and product, right? Manufacture and product. So first we can see in here I have given the first difference as the services are intangible product and manufacturers, so product are tangible. So what does this mean? I think you know. Most product, right? Most product are countable, touchable, right? And visible, and consumer can assess its durability by examining it, right? All these things are included in product. Therefore, we can say product or manufacturers are tangible, right? So in contrast of that, a service is not something that one can feel or try out before paying for it. So we can't touch service, also we can't count them, and anyway physically we cannot see that it is not visible, right? Service is not visible. So anyway, we know the product can be one time use or used repeatedly, but service not like that, right? Just one time we have to consume that, right? And because we know service are intangible, it is the service given by a person to another person on demand. And product cannot be inventories, and services cannot be inventoried. Shall I write it? Shall I correct it? No, service cannot be invented. Product is invented. Okay, and because service has a pressability, right? Services have pressability, can't be stored, right? And anyway, we know the service output varies because services are based on the preference of perception of customers. Right? And service has high customer contact and product has low customer contact. And another difference is short response time required for the services, and there are more time, like long time responses for the product. And most of the time services are labor intensive, and most of the time product are capital intensive. And in addition to that, we can say products are exchangeable while services are not exchangeable, right? That means while services are a one-time use. So those are the main differences in between services and goods or manufacturers. Okay. So then next section is final one. You can see in here, explain the different stages of the product life cycle with a suitable example. So in this, when answering this section, first you have to explain very briefly different stages of product cycle, and next you can explain this product cycle with your choice, using your choice product, right? ඔගොල්ලෝ කැමති ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් කරන් විස්තර කරන්න. නමුත් දැන් මම මෙතනදී ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ටිකක් විස්තර ඇතුව මේක කියලා දෙනවා. උනට මතක තියාගන්න මේ මම කියන තරම් විස්තරයක් ලියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ආන්සර් එකට. right? ලකුණු 5කට ඇති වෙන්න අත්‍යවශ්‍ය නැත්නම් ඉම්පෝටන්ට් ටික ලිව්වහම ඇති. but to get the more, ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඊට වැඩිය ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේ ලෙසන් එක ආයි මතක් කිරීමක් විදිහට මම වැඩිපුර විස්තර කතා කරනවා. So what is product cycle first? Then you know that most products go through a series of stages of change in product demand called the product life cycle, right? Because this product life cycle also change the demand of product. So there are typically 4 stages of the product life cycle. First, introduction stage, then next growth stage, next maturity stage, and finally decline stage. So in this picture you can through this picture you can understand further. So the product is the introductory products in the introductory stage are not well defined, and neither is their market, just introducing, right? But when it comes to the growth stage, the product takes hold, and both product and market continue to be refined. When next it moves to the third stage, that is maturity stage, where demand level often there are usually no design changes. So the product is predictable at this stage, and so is its market. So many products, such as shall I take example as an example, toothpaste, right? Can stay in this stage more years. So I want to say, explain you some products. So many products, right, stay in this maturity stage long time, right? So finally there is a decline in demand, that is the decline stage, right? Because of new technology. Right? Because of new technology, its demand decrease, right? That stage is decline stage because of new product, better product design, better product design should come to the market, right? And when we further discussing the first two stages of life cycle, that are the introduction and growth stage, can collectively be collected the early stages, right? Can collectively be called the early stages, because the product is still being improved and refined, and the market is still in the process of being developed. But the last two stages of the life cycle can be referred as the later stages, because here both stages, maturity and decline stages, product and market are well defined. So understanding the stages of product life cycle is important for product design process, such as knowing at which stage to focus on design changes. Also, when considering a new product, the expected length of life cycle is critical in order to estimate future probability relative to the initial investment. The product life cycle can be quite short for certain products, as seen in the computer industry, okay? Because there is the technology is highly speedy changing, right? So that type of for that type of products, life cycle is little bit short than others. For other products, it can be extremely long, right? As an example, we can say aircraft industry, right? So another thing is a few products, such as some important things also we in our day-to-day life, we use some products like paper, pencil, milk, sugar, like food, right? So do not go through a life cycle. We know some products do not go through a life cycle because every day we need as same. So however, almost all products do, and some may spend a long time in one stage. So in addition to this one, when you answer in this section, just it is better you take a particular product and explain how its life cycle goes. Okay? And next, we can move to the section number 2 in this same paper. This paper, second section also relevant to the most important topic, that is forecasting, right? Forecasting. What is the section? Part 1. Yes. It is what is forecast, why is forecasting important for an operations manager? Okay. This section also allocated, this section is allocated 5 marks. So that means you can just write the more important why the factors, right? Why forecasting is important for an operations management, and simply very briefly you can explain each point, right? So what are the importance, right? Importance. As the first one, we can say forecasting is important for operations managers to understand regular supply of material, to decide or determine regular supply of material. So there, because by the determination of desired volume of production on the basis of sales forecast, one can evaluate the necessary raw material requirement in future, so as to ensure regular and continuous supply of the materials, as well as controlling the size of inventory also. Controlling the size of inventory at economic level. So for that purpose, forecasting is important. And second importance is can be determined through the maximum utilization of machines through the forecasting, right? It is important, another important thing. So maximum utilization of machines mean because the operations can be so planned that the machines are utilized to their maximum capacity. So when planning whether the machines have to utilize fully, right? So all these relevant decisions or decisions can be taken based on the forecasting, So next one is another factor is regular availability of labor. That one is also determined or understand if we know the if we have the forecast estimated regarding that forecasted information. So because skilled and unskilled workers can be properly arranged to meet the production schedule requirement. So that is the major task of the any organization, right? So that one can do based on the based on the forecasting information. And not only that, right? There are another importance. Next one is price policy formulation. For the price policy formulation, forecasting also important. Why? Demand forecast enable to management to formulate some appropriate pricing mechanism so that the level of price does not fluctuate too much during the period of depressions or inflations. So then, therefore, the forecasting is more important for this purpose. And also, to properly control the sales, forecasting is also required, right? So demand forecasts are calculated region-wise, and then the sales target for various sales targets for various parts or sales targets of various areas, regions are fixed accordingly. So this later on become the basis of evaluate the sales performance. And to arrange the finance, right? To properly arrange the finance, also forecasting is needed. So one of the basis of sales forecast, one can determine the financial requirements of the organization for the product of the desired output. So this can lead to minimize the cost of obtaining finance. And next important of the forecasting is if we have the forecast regarding this matter, then we can decide about the production capacity. That means if we have the forecasted information about the production capacity, so then we can decide production capacity correctly. Because the size of plant should be such that the output conforms to the sales requirement. That means the too small or too large size of plant may not be the economic interest, right? Economic interest of the firm. by studying the demand pattern for the product and the forecast for future, then firm can plan the product or their output, right? Their output or plant of desired capacity. And also forecasting is important to determine labor requirement, because expenditure on labor is one of the most important components in cost of production. So the reliable and accurate sales forecast can help the management to assess the appropriate labor requirement. And also capital resourcing, right? Capital restructuring or capital resourcing. For the capital restructuring or resourcing, forecasting is important. The long-term production plan normally can help to management to arrange the long-term finance on reasonable terms and conditions from different sources, internal as well as external sources, and sometimes from global sources, right? So therefore, these are the main main importance of forecasting for an operations managers. And now we can move to the second part of the section number 2. No? Second part of the section number 2, part B, that is, it asks what steps would you follow when applying forecasting method? What steps, right? What steps would you follow when applying a forecasting method, right? So, when answering this question, basically we can understand there are 5 main steps, right? There are 5 main steps can be applied, can be adopted when we applying a forecasting method. So, because first I want to emphasize so that regardless of what forecasting method is used, right? Whatever the forecasting method, there are some basic steps, right? That should be followed when making a forecast. So the first step is decide what to forecast, right? That is the first step. Remember that forecasts are made in order to plan for the future. We know forecasts are made in order to plan for the future. So to do so, we have to decide what forecasts are actually needed. This is not as simple as it sounds, right? For example, do we need to forecast sales or demand, right? So, because these are two different things, and sales do not necessarily equal to the total amount of demand for the product, right? Both pieces of information are usually valuable. So the thing is, we have to understand what we want to forecast, right? So an important part of this decision is the level of detail required for the forecast. The unit of forecast and time horizon likewise, okay? So then first have to decide what to do, what to forecast. Then we can we can evaluate and analyze appropriate data, right? So this step involves identifying what data are needed and what data are available, right? This will have a big impact on the selection of a forecasting model. For example, if you are predicting sale for a new product, you may not have historical sales information, which would limit your use of forecasting model that require quantitative data. The different type of patterns can be observed when we evaluating the data. It is important to identify those patterns in order to select the correct forecasting method required, right? For example, if a company was experiencing a high increase in product sales for the past years, it would be important to identify this growth in order to forecast correctly. So that means when we evaluating and analyzing appropriate data, the person who is forecasting can get more information about the forecast, right? About the forecast. And as the third step, then forecaster need to select and test the forecasting model, right? So once the data have been evaluated, so then the next step is to select an appropriate forecasting model. As we will see, there are many models to choose from. Usually we consider factors like cost and ease of use in selecting model. So another very important factor is accuracy also, right? It is the most important. The common procedure is to narrow the choice to 2 or 3 different models and then test them and historical data to see which one is most accurate. And then you can select the method forecasting model, right? And as the fourth step, then you can generate the forecast, right? Once we have a selected model, next week after we confirming this is the most suitable method, right? We can use it to generate the forecast. But remember, we are not finished in this step, right? As you will see in the, you can see it in the next step, right? You will see in the next step, because just generating, we can't, after generating, we can't stop our forecasting steps, right? We can't stop our steps of forecasting, right? Because final one is we have to monitor forecast accuracy. That is the most important thing, right? When we apply in the forecasting method, monitor because we know the forecasting is an ongoing process. After we have made a forecast, we should record what actually happened, right? What actually happened. So then we have to compare. We can then use that information to monitor our forecast accuracy, because already we have actual data, right? So this process should be carried out continuously, because environments and conditions often change. What was a good forecasting model in the past might not provide good result for the future. That is another important thing forecaster have to know, right? So we have to constantly be prepared to revise our forecasting model as our data change. So remember, right? So these 5 steps we have to consider when applying forecasting method. Then when I move to the is this third section, sub part C, no? Yep. Part C, The question is, what are the main advantages that quantitative techniques for forecasting have over qualitative techniques, right? So normally, anyway, when we study forecasting method, just we have understood there are 4 types of forecasting method. One is quantitative forecasting method, the other one is qualitative forecasting techniques, right? Quantitative and qualitative. So in this section, what are the advantage of the quantitative techniques than qualitative one, right? But anyway, we know both are very important, both according to the situation, according to the scenario, right? We have to select the appropriate method, that means the quantitative or qualitative. Anyway, there are some advantages in quantitative method than qualitative one. First, we can say that means the main advantage of quantitative technique is that the forecast has a solid recorded base of actual data, right? Base of actual data. So that is more important because when we forecast in future thing, anything. So if you use our forecast, if based on the actual data, previous actual data, right? Most probably it can be correct, right? The future situation we can correctly estimate, right? And another one is quantitative techniques for forecasting have more to offer than just copy and paste into an estimate, right? So because quantitative data implies whether is there steady increase, whether there is a decline or cycle trend, right? So number of forms of pattern. So then quantitative forecast will adjust past data to fit in with the pattern. So therefore that is the more good things on quantitative method. And quantitative method are usually very simple, right? Simple than qualitative techniques, because the quantitative methods we can understand it specifically, right? So anyway, there should be a mathematical model, but anyone can understand very clearly, and it is maybe simple. But qualitative method most depend on the person's opinion, right? Person's opinion. So therefore we can say the quantitative methods is usually simple. However, this does not mean that all quantitative forecasts are based on direct application of one or two factors reached from past behavior. But generally we can say, right? And so next we can say quantitative techniques for forecasting are usually cheaper, less cost to implement than qualitative method. Because qualitative method require the use of survey, right, expert opinion, and alternative scenarios which require to consult and paid advisory to compile. So therefore, we can understand for the qualitative method, we have to pay more money, right? More that means it's maybe the costly than the quantitative method. And next question. What is our question? Third one. What are the main, yes, we did it. No? What are the main advantages that quantitative takes? Yes. Then finally, final part of the section 2 is this one, right? You are given a following partial demand and forecast data for a product. What are the information says? They have given the 4 quarter 5, 6, 7 and 6 and 7. That is the time period. And also forecasted values are given here and demand actual value also given here. Okay, actual value also given here. Compute and the question is compute an exponentially smoothed forecast for quarter 8 with here I put the notation. That means alpha, no? You know, alpha equal 0.15, right? So now you have already know how to compute, right? Compute the, or how to, yes, how to calculate the, compute the forecasted value when using this exponential smooth method, right? Exponential smooth method. So I will explain you. Remember these figures, right? 400, 4 and 300, 109. Yes, the final one we need only 7th. Only time period of 7th quarter, because we know in the for the exponential smoothing method, no need the all the previous data, just it's enough to the immediate previous time period, right? So then we can write it as the formula, right? We know the general formula for the exponential smoothing method. Ft equal ft minus 1 plus alpha is the for exponential factor, and dt minus 1 minus ft minus 1. Okay, so what does this says? What does this equation says? If you want to find out the forecasted value for the period of t, then we needed forecasted value for the previous period, and then we needed actual value for the previous period, right? So in this case, in our case, what we want to do, F8, right? We have to compute the F8. Then here we need to forecast the value of the 7th period and alpha. Next, actual value of 7th period also, and here also forecasted value of periods of 7, right? So then we can apply or we can substitute the given information, right? So forecasted value of 7th period is 409. Then alpha value also given, it's equal to 0.15, and actual data or actual demand of the previous period equal to 1060 and minus again 409, no? 490. So then small is very simple, very easy simplification here. You can do it. That means just you have to minus 490 from the 1060 and then multiply by it by 0.15 and have to add this value into the 490. So here you can use the calculator if you have that. So then final value is, okay. So this is the answer. What is our question then? Question asks the compute the exponential smoothed forecast for the quarter 8, right? That value, the answer is 575.5, right? So we can write the values for the approximation value, right? So the next it asks, observing the actual demand for the part of 4 through 7, should you update the value of alpha in part 1? Justify your answer by giving reasons. Okay. So then we know in this method, exponential smoothing method, alpha value can determine or can set up by the estimator, that means the forecaster, right? Forecast කරන කෙනාට ඒක determine කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So the thing is in here, right? So the forecaster should have to know what is the most appropriate value for the alpha, because we know alpha can get the value in between 0 to right 0 yes 0 to 0 to 1, right? 0 to 1. So that means 0.1, 2, 3, likewise. Okay. So in this case, it is given alpha equal to 0.15. Okay. So then this question asks whether we need to change this alpha value. Okay. So this one you can, the answer for this one, you can use the what we call the accuracy calculations. That means the how accurate how our forecasted value, right? මෙච්චර කියන්නේ දැන් අපිට පරණ තොරතුරු දිගලා තියලා දෙනවා quarters එක හතරක තව. මේ quarter හතරේ actual එකයි forecast එකයි අතර අපිට වෙනස. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි කියන එකට අපිට හොයන්න පුළුවන් forecast error එක. හරි? Forecast එකේ accuracy හොයන සූත්‍රය. We know there are several methods we can apply to find out the forecast accuracy of the forecasted value. So it's very simple. One is we know MAD, no? Mean absolute deviation. Okay, we know the formula also, sigma I equal to 1 to n, and here we need to get the actual value minus forecasted value in each period, and then we have to divide it by in number of period. Okay, so you can calculate this MAD, that means the mean absolute deviation for the period 1, right? When considering, no, when taking the period 4, no, quarter 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? And then you can check what is the accuracy rate. Okay, so when understanding the accuracy of this already forecasted value, right? Accuracy of that, then you can decide whether we need to change or not this one, right? That means if there is a big deviation among the forecasted value and the accuracy, no, the forecasted value and the actual value, that means the accuracy, right? Percentage of accuracy. How is percentage of accuracy? If it is then here mean absolute deviation value is high, right? High value, then we have to change it. But the mean absolute deviation is little or small value, that means there is no big difference between actual value and the forecasted value, right? So like when applying or when doing these calculations, that means applying any accuracy method, right? Any formula which we can use to check accuracy of the forecasted value and actual value, then you can give your answer for that question. Okay. So then we have discussed the question number 1 and 2 also, right? Then we can move to the third part of the paper, section of the paper, right? Given paper. I will